Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 2013 Suffolk County Council on Environmental Quality meeting. Just a reminder, this is an open meeting to the public. If you have an item on the agenda that you would like to address, please wait till that item is on the agenda and you can address it. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes of the May 2013 meeting?
I have. I think that they are spectacular. They're as good as Terry used to do a long time ago, before your time. They are fully explanatory of everything, and I think John, I'm told by Christine that John also worked on them, so
yes, thank you.
I think they're very, very accurate.
Yes. Okay. Is there a motion?
And very nice to read.
Yeah.
Yes.
It actually makes us look intelligent, which is hard. Okay. Sorry, Gloria. I will make a motion to accept staff minutes.
Is there a second? Seconded by Dan. All in favor? Motion passed.
Abstain.
Okay. Jim abstained. He wasn't here. John, is there any correspondence we should be aware of?
No, haven't received any.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, historic trust document.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rich. How are you?
Good. The update on the housing, we had 3 vacancies. 2 will be filled in July. That's the West Sayville Gatehouse on Montauk Highway and the Isaac Mills House in St. James. We did find a tenant for those 2 and they'll be filled in July. The house at the Robinson Duck Farm, we have not gotten any interest, so we have to review that site and the possibility of a price reduction to allow it to be rented. So that's still under discussion now in the Parks Department, how to proceed there. But out of the 3 that we had advertised and had an open house for, we did get 2 filled. So we're happy with that.
That's great about the Isaac Mills house.
Yeah, that we definitely don't want to have vacant. The contracts, we're still working on various contracts. We're trying to move forward, especially with the Saginaw Coast Manor contract and the Deep Wells Farm Historical Society contract right now, but they're still in negotiations with the groups and the county attorney's office, so they're not finalized. I'd like to report on the Vanderbilt Museum concessionaire contract that was put forward to the legislature. I did talk with the director, Lance Reinheimer, last name, and he gave me the points that are in the contract that really are ideas that came from the concessionaire. So they're not a done deal at all, except for, of course, the catering and the tent, you know, the weddings. That's really why someone would bid on a project like that. The other food service on site, which I'll explain, are under negotiation, and he knows that they'd have to come back for some of these items. There's the catering, which is in the tent, which is erected now on a platform on the field on the west side of the main house. That the concessionaire is looking to make actually more permanent structure. We might want to weigh in on that, but that comes in with the fire marshal review when you build a tent and DPW for a building permit. So that would be the primary review for something like that. It's going to be in the same location, which has been there for years actually. The plus he explained to me under this contract is that they spend about $30,000 a year, the museum does, in maintenance costs on the tent to replace as needed if it rips or something, and sometimes they put it up and take it down in the winter season. So there's also costs related to that. All those costs are now put on the concessionaire. And also in the contract, they will get 3 catered events a year for the museum fundraising events that they will directly benefit from. So he feels very, and a guaranteed $135,000 minimum site fee for the use of that facility by the concessionaire. So he thinks it's a very positive move on their part. And I'm sorry, one more thing, that they will be staffed by the catering company and not staffed by the museum, which had to provide additional people to direct traffic and people on site. So all of that is being assumed now by the concessionaire. So that's a very, win-win for them. They're very happy to have that in place. The other items that are still being negotiated is to put like a cafe into the, what they call their education center, which is the old garage. I expressed concerns with that, which he understood if they're going to change the building at all. It has traditional garage doors on it now. So all changes would have to come to CQ for our review, and he understands that. But there's no set plan. It's just, these are just ideas that can be explored under this contract. Also, there's what they call the laundry room in the lower level of the main house, which would be a possibility of some sort of food service on a small scale in the main house. Again, under negotiation. They also talked about having a snack bar within the planetarium, which I don't see any problems. You know, it's not one of the early buildings on site, and as long as it's within the planetarium, I don't see any problem with that. The concern would be extending that facility out further into what's known as the Rose Garden there, which is further west from the planetarium, like a glass enclosure to have some tables outside. That could be a concern going into the garden space. So we understood any plans on that would have to come to CQ for review. So I think overall he understood the concerns, and if as soon as they come up with ideas, I would go over and start the review process with the concessionaire. But it has not gone forward to be approved by the legislature yet. I don't know, John, if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, I believe, looking at just, I believe it was tabled at the last legislature meeting.
Yes, and they didn't discuss it, so he's not sure why and what their concerns are. So it'll be coming up again, but it has not been approved yet by the legislature.
Mrs. Spencer, I think the sponsor requested tabling, but I'm not certain.
Yes, Mike.
A couple questions for Rich. One, the expansion of the proposed snack bar at the planetarium and putting benches and things like that outside. I was at a winery recently, and the one thing that struck me, aside from having alcohol, was the fact that they were able to integrate their eating facilities, if you will, with the grape arbors, basically, and they were able to place tables and things like that in the in between the arbors, and it worked out quite nicely. Again, I'm not familiar very much with the Rose Garden over there. I have a dim memory of it, but that would be maybe the way to integrate, just as a suggestion, to integrate the expansion of the snack bar without necessarily harming the Rose Garden. Obviously, if it does, that's something else. That's my first point. The second point is you mentioned something about a permanent structure for the tent. Now, the tent's been there for a while, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. But it's really a tent. It comes down and goes back up.
How long has it been operational like that?
A very long time. You know, I would say over 10 years.
Okay. The reason I bring it up is I worry, and I'm not trying to push this one too heavily, I worry about the historic integrity of the way the place is set out. Now, you're obviously talking about the various buildings and the doors, for example. You are very aware of the historic integrity. The question I have is whether, in your opinion and in Mary Ann's opinion, whether the tent should be made a permanent facility, such as laying concrete down, things like that. I don't know the answer or anything like that. I don't know if it's how hard we should push on it. I don't.
Well, I think from this review, you could ask what does that mean, permanent tent? I took it to mean that the structure would be more substantial, but still on the existing platform, but that it could weather the winter and
It
stay
may be
up.
heavy concrete padding or
We'd have
something
to
like that.
ask what is that exactly?
Or just footings, the whole columns or something.
Yeah, I think we would need to know.
Yeah.
Again, I don't feel comfortable without having a full review, blessing it one way or the other. On the other hand, I think it's an excellent idea, and anything that can bring in revenue is important to that museum. My final question, you were talking about 135 coming out. That goes into the operating fund over there? I'm just curious. Or
I don't know the answer
Okay.
of where that money goes, which we could ask.
Eva?
Thank you. Richard, is the pad made out of concrete or is it wood pad?
These questions I'll have to go back and ask Lance specifically what does that mean.
Okay, so
We
we
just
don't, but I
talked
mean
in
the
general terms.
the existing, you said something about there's an existing platform or something?
Yes, it's a very rolling, hilly site, so they had to build a platform and then to put the tent on,
Okay.
on this platform.
And is the platform made out of wood or is it made out of concrete? It's
Wood.
wood.
Yeah, well, I think steel
That's-
structural supports underneath.
Oh,
Wood blocks,
okay.
that's why they-
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I agree with Mike over here. We need to have a clear, with some photographs and some site plan things.
Well, just tell them the concerns and that also needs to come forward to the
Yeah,
CQ
just so
before.
we can review, not that there's any objection outright
It's fine.
about anything.
Anything else, Rich?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Moving on, project review. Recommended unlisted actions. Proposed pedestrian safety improvements on County Road 10, Elwood Road, Town of Huntington. Who do we have here to speak?
By the way, Madam Chairperson, let the record reflect that I will be recusing myself on this one, and I'll be taking off for a little while.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Dawson. I'm a senior civil engineer at Suffolk County Public Works Highway Department. I'm in the consultant management division, and I'm the project manager of the next 3 projects on the agenda. We've been progressing a sidewalk project on Elwood Road, and we have a great consultant RBA on board to do the design for us. And this is Steve Normandin will be making a presentation. Thank you. Just want to show you, this is the project location map, which you all have in your packages. Our project is a pedestrian safety and improvement project. It's a 4-mile stretch starting in the south at the Route 25 Jericho Turnpike all the way north to Route 25A, Fort Salonga Road in Elwood and East Northport. The project goals is to provide connectivity from a pedestrian standpoint safely and continuously between the 2 state routes. Just of note, along the roadway itself, there are 4 schools, including John Glenn High School, there's a middle school, Pulaski Road Elementary, and Northport Senior High School. In terms of the roadway character, generally to the east is all, from the map you can see, subdivisions and residential neighborhoods are on the east side of Elwood Road, and on the west side is more institutional, larger parcels, commercialized uses on that side. So our first goal was to figure out which way is the logical connection and where to put the sidewalk. Was basically a no-brainer. We're going to take the sidewalk on the east side all the way up continuously between the 2 state routes, capturing all the pedestrian generators from the residents, carrying them to the destination points of the schools on the west side, crossing them at signalized intersections, which will also be upgraded with new pedestrian signal equipment. So with that said, I'll show you a typical section, which is also in your package. Just looking north up the roadway, on the top is the existing roadway is 2-lane roadway, 12-foot lanes in each direction with a varying shoulder and a varying width. It's very jaggedy, kind of almost a rural look to it now. What we're looking to do is to delineate the roadway, make it a constant width for safety reasons, and provide the pedestrian accommodations on the east side. So the construction itself is very limited. We're simply going to cut the roadway shoulder a couple of feet in to install the new curb, continuous curb, and sidewalk area. So it's really an 8 to 10 foot construction zone for the 4-mile stretch, but it is very limited. With that said, there is sidewalk out there now. That will all be reconstructed, brought up to ADA compliant width and slope for all the handicap ramps, and new curbing will be provided continuously where intermittent now as well. So it's either a reconstruction of what's there or providing new links in between the missing sections. Below I'm showing another typical section. There's a segment of the roadway just south of Pulaski, about a 1,500-foot stretch, which we are providing sidewalk on the west side. There is sidewalk there now. It's just in poorly, really poor shape, and is non-compliant in terms of its width. And so that section, and it does get some use, or people try to use that sidewalk. So we're going to reconstruct that section, and that's the limited amount of work we're going to do on the west side of the roadway. Other improvements We're going to handle the drainage by installing leaching basins in spot locations. Now that we have a new curb, we have to capture the drainage accordingly. Right now, drainage lays in low-lying ditch areas or overflows into some of the town systems and the roadways to the east. So we're going to capture and handle all of the stormwater in proper manner. Currently, it's inadequate. As I mentioned, the signal upgrades, there are 6 or 7 traffic signals that we will add pedestrian push buttons and the countdown timers, so that in concert with the sidewalk work will provide a safe route for the pedestrian accommodations for the entire roadway. That's basically it. Any questions?
Steve, the areas that are no sidewalks at all, I'm assuming it's just grass, and those areas when you're going to put in the new sidewalks are strictly within the right-of-way of the roadway?
Yeah, all work is within the existing right-of-way, and that was a constraint, physical constraint to fit these sidewalks in. In some areas, the grass strip does in fact go away just because of the tight right-of-way. We'll have curbside sidewalk without the grass strip. Utility poles is another factor. There's tons of utilities along this corridor, believe it or not, both high tension lines and underground, and electrical overhead. So we had to, contend with a lot of constraints to get the sidewalk through.
Okay, Eva?
I guess one of the things that occurs to me, 'cause I'm a bike rider, and there is, obviously, you've got a lot of people living, as you said, to the east, and I assume to be a lot of people who are bike riders, children and adults. What, if any, accommodation has been anticipated or explored or included to accommodate that factor?
Yeah, we certainly did take a look at that. First thing we looked at is the right-of-way and the availability to provide that, either the 5-foot bike lane or shared use facility. In our design, anywhere we put in the sidewalk, we strive to achieve a 4-foot shoulder, continuous throughout. Obviously, at signalized intersections, the roadway all of a sudden has a left turn lane, and there's the shoulder goes away, basically. So the shoulder along this route, where we put the sidewalk in, we've tried to achieve at least 4 foot with the existing travel lane. It's not a bike lane, but it does meet the criteria for a Class 3 shared use on-road facility.
So I'm not sure of what I'm hearing. Are you saying there is a continuous 4-foot wide paved surface in the walk, or there is not?
It varies.
So there isn't a continuous 4-foot wide, it becomes less in certain
Yes,
parts?
yes.
Okay. But there is, but the width, what's the minimum width that it,
The minimum width of the shoulder is 1 foot. At a signalized intersection, there's 3 lanes
It's
now.
what- yeah,
So the shoulders
right.
in fact go away.
I understand.
So, and there are several signalized intersections with left turn lanes. So even if we wanted to, we couldn't expand and widen the roadway on both sides to fit, a 5-foot bike lane on both sides without
I understand,
going over the right of way.
I understand. So there's pretty strict constraints. Well,
Yes,
Yeah.
very much. Joy?
Will you strike the road
The
for
roadway,
the bike lane?
no, there is, no.
because it's not,
The bike-
it doesn't meet
Yes.
the
It won't be
legal.
classified as a
Right.
bicycle facility. We've looked at the state's master, plan for the area. Larkfield Road, just to the east, north-south roadway, is designated as a connecting roadway by the state, so Elwood Road is not. Bike Route 25 does run east and west, bisects this
Right.
roadway. So all the roadways have been mapped around it. Elwood Road was never on the master plan. Doesn't mean that we can't certainly upgrade, but, so the signage and the classifications are not there. However, the roadway, to the best extent within the right-of-way, can achieve at least the 14-foot shared use facility, if in fact that was to be done in a future date.
And what's this, sorry, speed limit I was going to ask about.
Speed limit is 35 and 40.
35 to 40, right?
There's heavy traffic on Elwood
Yeah.
Road and heavy blockage. I wanted to ask 2 questions. First, where is the staging area going to be?
Good question, not established yet. That's up to the contractors with the county's approval, they typically decide on that once the job is started.
Could you notify, I would like to make a request, the town of Huntington being notified where the staging area is. There is all the schools and there's parkland all over, and we need, sometimes it comes as a surprise where the staging area is. So could you notify the town?
Certainly.
Steve McGloin.
Okay.
And the other question is, there are a couple of service roads. You come into the residential.
Right.
Where is the walkway? On the street or on the service
That's
road?
a very good question. I left that piece out. I left it out and I left it out. We call the Marginal Road, that Suffolk County owns the town roadway adjacent to the county arterial. What county has done in previous projects and federal aid projects, the Marginal Road can be considered the pedestrian walkway through the area, since it's a dead end with very little traffic volume, with the exception of the handful of houses that front it. So with that said, and the fact that marginal, although a big grass area with trees, it has its issues too, because there's established trees in there and the grade changes. So instead of meandering through and putting retaining walls in to provide a flat sidewalk through that area, what the county has done, like I said, on other projects which the federal government and the state has approved, we basically take the sidewalks, wrap them into the Marginal Road, and put them on the roadway at that point, and do nothing through that segment, and effectively using the Marginal Road as our sidewalk area.
Will that be marked?
It will not be marked.
Because that's across from the high school. These areas.
Yeah, no, in front of the high school, we do provide that sidewalk in front of the high school at the Marginal Road. Yeah, there's a traffic signal there, and continuous sidewalk would be run. So I'm thinking that there's a longer stretch further to the south.
Yes.
That's the section I'm talking about. By the schools, certainly we have continuous sidewalks in front of the schools, and we put that in that median area where it was flatter and wider, where we can achieve the sidewalk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dan, did you have something?
Has there been a public hearing on this yet?
No.
No? That comes next in the process?
Jeff, there's no public. Jeff. Oh, there. There's no public meeting scheduled since
Public
it's
meeting, I should say.
There's public information meeting.
No, we don't have a planned formal hearing for sure. That typically occurs when you're taking right-of-way or when there's a federal aid process involved. This project is locally funded, so it does not require a hearing. And whether the public information meeting is going to be held is up to the chief engineer. And at this point, he has not decided to do that.
The reason I ask that is because, and Joy would probably know better than I, is that at least at one point in the town of Huntington, especially in residential areas, it was more important to retain use the term before, a rural look, rather than to have a continuous sidewalk. So that's one issue. And secondly, you're going to be taking down what looks like a significant number of established trees, and that makes people crazy. And to kind of spring a project on them, where they wake up one morning and trees are coming down, it would seem to me that you should address those issues with the town and the local residents.
I'll definitely make note of that to the chief.
And the town is putting in sidewalks now as things have changed, opinions have changed, and we are in favor of walkability, and this is, of course, a place that you walk.
Right, of course, with all those schools and everything, of course.
What is the grade area where the greatest width exists on the road? Like, does it change dramatically? Are there any areas where it is particularly wide or medium?
The widest part is where there's 3 lanes, and that's really only the same, pretty much the same width.
There's no medians planned?
No,
or
there's,
anything?
no. We're not changing anything in the existing roadway itself. There is one segment where, I don't know why, but the right-of-way jumps out, and there's a 12-foot shoulder for a certain stretch, for a certain length. I guess when the subdivision was built, that was, all of a sudden, the right-of-way did jump out. But there's pavement in that area, but it's for limited segments. But for the most part, it's a 2-lane roadway with varying shoulders.
It says, I hope I'm reading the right place, new raised, colored, embossed concrete traffic islands at Laurel Hill Road.
Yes,
Belrose
yes.
Avenue.
At Laurel Hill Road, Belrose, this right next to the school, very large intersection. Crosswalks are there, existing. We're going to reconfigure that. Basically, they're striped out pavement marking triangles, where the right turn lanes are. We're simply going to install raised pedestrian refuges with the traffic signals and push buttons on those raised islands to shorten the distance effectively for the pedestrians walking across the street. So it's basically taking anything that's striped out, striped islands, flush striped in pavement. We're going to install the colored treatment with the continuous sidewalk through them.
How large? Is it large enough for plantings, or is it?
And it's not large enough for plantings. I don't think the county typically would maintain that. And then site distance wise, if you have any plant, I know you can plant low line, but the point of the matter is it's pedestrian safety. We have the traffic signal
Not
head
familiar
there,
with the intersection,
and
so I
it
don't
really
know
wouldn't lend itself to that.
how big that is. Are there any plantings planned anywhere?
We have about 25 or so tree removals along the 4-mile stretch, which is pretty good in terms of, over 4 miles. There's still 25 trees. We will plant trees, street trees, where they're appropriate, where we can fit them in, where they make sense. Specifically where they are removed, we can certainly talk to the homeowners and put it on their right of way, because we have a very limited. We're not going to plant a street tree in the 2-foot grass strip, but we have them in the project to place. Yes, we will install the trees where we can.
Has this road, I'm not familiar with the road, but has this road historically had issues with accidents and deaths? Has there been problems with the existing systems that are going on there?
I don't know the accident rate. I'm sure it's higher than the statewide average along this corridor, but it's just, we were brought on to install this project. I don't know the previous studies that the county list Jeff does, but certainly just by observation, people are walking in the existing shoulder, where there is the shoulder, or they're walking on the grass, and you have the desire lines are there. It's clearly evident that these sidewalks are needed. The crossing guards are out there welcoming.
And the refuge point.
Right.
What you're talking about, because I can see that from what you were discussing with legislative, that it might be more appropriate for a refuge place if there's a lot of traffic, and 35 to 40 is a high speed, and I'm kind of surprised. Does it go down at the schools to 20?
It goes down.
So it's kind of like if it was a consistent, 25, 20, it would be a lot better, but.
Yeah, and certainly the roadway character changes, and wherever there's a school, yes, the speed limit drops 10 miles per hour from what it's posted, and it's being so many schools, it does vary throughout. You're down from 35 down to 25. Along the border.
Joy, go ahead.
It's a very heavily traveled road, and at the Cuba Hill light, it stops, traffic stops way back. And there's a signaling problem. I think it could move more efficiently, but I'm sure that's not your job, is it?
I can make note of it, we can take a look at it, but it's not, we're simply installing the handicap ramp and the
I
pedestrian push
understand.
buttons.
And there, people walk on both sides of the road. They walk on the west side, kids. They walk on the east side, so sidewalks are very definitely necessary.
Okay. But are you installing the synchronization tools for the lights?
This is simply any pedestrian upgrades to the signals that exist out there. The signals will be maintained. There's nothing in terms of the emergency preemptive, that's all effectively already established on the lights. This is not a synchronization, interconnection job. Everything has been, the lights have been, installed, and this is not a capacity improvement project, it's a pedestrian safety project.
These pedestrian traffic islands, are they ADA accessible?
Yes, yes.
Dan?
Just getting back to the trees again, you talked about replacing some trees. So the first thing is, probably aware that they should be wire friendly if they're overhead power lines. And secondly, and I was going to bring this up when Jeff introduced the Oakland Road project, it was mentioned in there how the existing trees were lifting the sidewalk. And usually what happens is that very often a popular replacement tree is another maple tree, which will eventually lift the sidewalk again. So my point is to use deep-rooted trees, oaks and things like that won't lift the sidewalk.
Right. No, and with both our project and the next project which you'll hear from, there is lifting, and the sycamores that are there were should have been put there in the first place.
Right.
So they have been compromised already, the root systems, so they will be removed, specifically the sycamores. And the county does have a list, and with LIPA, wire-friendly trees
What
that
is a
would be installed.
wire-friendly tree? Sorry.
It doesn't get as tall.
But an oak gets very tall.
Well,
Depends on
They
the.
can.
you can. But he was also talking about, replacing some trees on private property. So you could probably use a taller tree as long as there aren't wires overhead.
Larry?
Going back to traffic signals, do these signals have a countdown mechanism so people will know how many seconds they have to scurry across?
Correct, right. I just glanced over that countdown pedestrian signal. Meanwhile, that's press the button, you got the shot clock that tells you how much you can, how many seconds you got.
And that works for handicap?
Yeah. They've timed that in terms of the location of it has to be, the concrete has to be right up against the push button and be a certain distance from the ramp itself. And then, of course, the crossing time has to take in the miles per hour that someone would be walking across.
So how many seconds does a wheelchair have to get across?
The typical design is it's 3 foot per second cross.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion
All right.
to adopt
Second.
said plan?
What's the motion?
What's the motion?
Motion.
Unlisted
Neglected, yes.
Okay, I will add with the proviso that the county notifies the town of Huntington when work will begin, where they will be staging their equipment for all this construction, and where there was one other thing that somebody, Dan, I think perhaps you should notify the public about this and that the trees will be coming down. I think that should be part of the motion.
And I would request that for the town of Huntington, you would typically notify the highway superintendent. I would request Steve McGloin, who is traffic safety,
Okay.
be also notified.
Okay. John, you have that?
Yep.
John McLean, traffic superintendent for town of Huntington.
John.
Okay. How do you say his last name?
McGloin, Gloin,
Okay.
and he's director of traffic safety and something.
Is there a second on the motion?
I second.
Joy seconded. All in favor? Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Will you be speaking on the next one, Steve, or someone else?
Oh, I got a good friend that's going to tell you.
All righty, so next, proposed improvements to County Road 92, Oakwood Road, from Craven Street to New York State Route 110, Capital Project 5576, Town of Huntington.
Were you guys able to handle things without me? Just asking.
He soldiered on.
You sold my seat?
I took your place, Mike.
Can't trust you under there.
Yeah, the ones with the blonde hair, you gotta watch out.
Be careful.
No, the ones you never notice are the ones you have to watch.
Yeah, right.
On the last motion, I'm not too certain whether Joy can second the motion.
Oh,
She
she's
is
not a
opposed,
member.
because she's not a
Yes.
full appointed member.
Okay.
I'll second.
Eva has seconded the motion.
Dawn.
She's still voting.
She tried to sneak in there.
Never sneak in.
Like I said, you can't trust her.
Okay. All right, please state your name.
Hi, I'm Bob Steele from LK McLean. I'm here to talk about CR 92, Oakwood Road in Huntington. Steve stole a lot of my thunder. We have a lot of the same design issues to talk about. This project is 2.2 miles, and the project limits are from Craven Street at the south end of the project to Route 110 in the village of Huntington at the north end of the project. This project will consist of new sidewalk areas as well as restoring existing sidewalk areas that are already in place. This project corridor has two schools within the project limits. We have Huntington High School down at McKay Street and Jefferson Primary School further south. And there's also a school very close by at the south extent of the project, Stimson Middle School, which we have to be aware of. And there are two parks on the project, Breezy Park near West Rogues, and also near Stimson Middle School is Oakwood Park to deal with. And at the north... Whips Furlick, okay. And at the north end of the project, we have the village of Huntington. The sidewalk improvements that we are proposing will result in sidewalks, 5-foot sidewalks on both sides of the roadway from the south end of the project up until Huntington High School. And as mentioned in the last presentation, a portion of that, there's a marginal road on this project as well, which we're proposing there's a few reasons why we're proposing. One is it's a cost savings to use the marginal road, and secondly, on the grass strip between the roadway and the marginal road, there's some nice vegetation, which we believe the homeowners would be upset if it was removed, because it's providing some screening of CR 92 to the homeowners. So since the marginal road is very close and parallel to CR 92 in that area, we're proposing to utilize that facility. After we get to Huntington High School, the project, instead of having sidewalk on both sides of the roadway, the sidewalk is only proposed to be installed on the east side of the roadway. That's because it's more of a wooded area on the west side of the roadway that would require some heavy grading and clearing. And we are proposing just to continue the sidewalk continuously through until we get closer to Huntington Village, where sidewalk on both sides of the roadway will pick up. You can see all the woods on the west side. There's really nothing to pick up as far as pedestrians in that area anyway. So sidewalk on both sides of the road will pick up again near Hazelwood and continue on down until Route 110, New York Avenue. This project also includes some pavement restoration. There's two segments of the project that we will be repaving. The first segment is at the south end of the project, from the Long Island Railroad to Pulaski Road. It's about a half a mile of milling out 2 inches of asphalt and putting back 2 inches of asphalt, and the pavement markings would go back in kind. And at the north end of the project, basically from the area of Huntington High School, McKay Road to Route 110, that pavement will be restored to the end of the project. That segment that's not being restored in the middle has recently been paved, and the county doesn't want to spend money on something that's in good condition. As far as stormwater on this project, we are not changing any of the drainage patterns on the project because the existing roadway is curbed and contains existing positive drainage systems. There are 5 existing recharge basins on the site which handle most of the water from the runoff, and we have 5 different positive drainage systems that discharge into the various recharge basins on the site. But what we were aware of is that at the very north end of the project, I think it's from north of Finch Street to Route 110 in Huntington, there is the positive drainage system there goes into the Route 110 drainage system, which eventually discharges into Huntington Harbor. So what we are proposing as far as stormwater in that area is to keep the existing positive drainage system, but to increase the number of leaching basins in that watershed area that's discharging into the Route 110 drainage system, to reduce the post-construction runoff after the project is complete, and to handle more than the water quality volume of the new impervious pavement areas that are contributing runoff to the roadway from the sidewalk areas. So we'll have a decreased amount of water that actually ends up in the Huntington Harbor when we're done. There's one structure at the very end of the project which is on the National Historic list, and that's the David Conklin Farmhouse. We aren't proposing any improvements in that area. There's a brick sidewalk in that area that will remain, and the only improvements in that area are the overlay that's going to be in front of the building, in the street, some striping. Most of this project is not a designated bike lane. There's a small segment of the project which a designated bike lane goes through, and that's strictly in front of Breezy Park. But the project is equipped with shoulders on the entire stretch of the eastern side. On the southbound side, at the north end of the project, it does have 2 lanes where it only has a 1 foot shoulder, so there'd have to be a shared use in that area for people trying to go up that steep hill, which is tough. I think that's about it.
Mike?
The drainage situation over there. Basically, north of 25A, the 110 system is, to say the least, dicey.
Yes.
If I understand you correctly, you're basically saying that any of the runoff that might be on this particular road prior to getting to the intersection of 25A and 110 is going to be captured with the leaching basin? Is that what I'm hearing? Or you're going to try and capture
what I'm
as
saying
much as you can?
Let's see, where's Finch? Okay. Finch is at the very, not the very end, but a few hundred feet from the northern extent of the project, okay? Everything south of there is handled by recharge basins, so
Yep.
none of that stormwater runoff will ever make it into the 110 drainage system. So what I'm saying is, north of Finch, what we're proposing to do, we can never put enough leaching basins in this area store a significant amount of water to handle all the water from this area because of the number of utilities. There's sewers on both sides, there's telephone, and it would be a very difficult situation to install that.
So you're basically going to capture as much as you can.
We're
And-
aware of what we're increasing as far as impervious pavement, as far as asphalt, a concrete sidewalk. And we're going to be doing our best to put, I think we're putting in at least 4 or 5 leaching pools to
Large capacity pools?
large
or-
capacity pools, circular pools, 12 feet deep, to handle an increased amount and reduce the amount of runoff that actually makes it to that overused system already.
Because you know DOT is playing around with 110. They're, I think, trying to raise it, if I remember correctly.
I designed it.
Okay, so you then know.
Yeah.
This integrates in with what you're trying to do. Because, as
Yeah.
you know, 110
Yeah.
north of 25A
This is a
a
drop in
disaster.
the bucket. There's a 1,000 CFS of water that discharges down the Route 110 corridor, which is, coming from 3,000 acres.
I know, I work down there, so I'm aware.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to channel Rich McTay for a second. Thank you. The project where it is at Rogues Path, there are a fair amount of woods over there, it's set, if I remember correctly. And basically, I'm looking at the aerials over here. What are you going to be doing with the drainage in that area? One of our former members in the past has talked about problems in that area.
On the roadway itself?
On the roadway, and water coming off of there and moving west.
Right.
And I believe it's down the hill,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
We'll be,
I'm just asking if you're going to be taking that into account and capturing as much as you
yeah,
can.
we'll be, there is a positive drainage system that discharges to a recharge basin near the railroad, so we'll be evaluating final design, the drainage inlet capacity and picking up any locations or low points in the pavement that are lacking. There'll also be an upgrade in the inlet capacity of the system and making all of the grates bicycle friendly. So a lot of the grates are parallel bar grates in the shoulders, which are dangerous for the bikers. So what we'll be doing is making sure that catch basins are located in the proper location and that they're all equipped with reticuline grates.
Final question, if I might. What is your rainstorm capacity? What are you looking at realistically? 1-inch storm, 2-inch storms, what are you designing for?
Well, the roadways are typically designed for a 10-inch rainfall. If you're discharging to, not 10, a 10-year, sorry, not 10-inch. If you're discharging to the recharge basin, that's a big rainfall.
Well, they're
We've been
becoming
having
much
some-
more common.
Yeah, we've been
Yes.
having some
Yeah.
great, yeah.
We just had
Maybe the
5
climate
inches.
is changing around here.
Joy?
Okay, thank you.
First of all, the same request as to notify Steve McGloin, and it's GLOIN. I thought. This area, the town of Huntington with Oakland Road Park, and then we increase the parking. So is the sidewalk going through the parking area?
At
There's
Oakwood,
a
well,
green-
we stop before Oakwood Road Park. That's further south.
Oakwood Road. Maybe if you could point on there exactly,
Yeah,
so
where is
she,
the park she's
so we
talking
can
about?
see what you're, okay.
That's down here off the project, I think. Isn't that near Stimson Middle School?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's further south off the limit.
okay. Breezy Park,
Breezy-
again,
Breezy Park,
that's a new construction.
yeah.
I would like to request something about, not from you, but from Gloria. I would like to request, not on my behalf, but some Huntington constituents, that we discuss Wicks Frolic Park, which is a county park. And you know all about the history of it. And it would be a good park for us to talk about.
Is this something else, or is this tied to this project?
Oh, I'm sorry, something else.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Forgive me, I was
Digressing for, okay.
digressing for a minute.
Larry?
As much as I hate to admit it, I was over in New Jersey the other day and saw something that intrigued me.
What town?
I can't even remember. New
so
Jersey is
slicky.
sort of. At any rate,
You radioactive?
I was born there, come on.
yeah. On the, they had some sidewalks and parks and along schools that I thought were really cool, and the kids were enjoying it. They made their sidewalks sort of serpentine, and so the kids were using it for, their skateboards, and it made me want to get out and skateboard. And I was just thinking, can we do anything creative like that? in some of these
Skateboards for everyone?
Oh, that would be lovely.
Go.
Yeah,
Put that helmet on, just in case.
See a little engine on the back of his board?
In Breezy Park,
I can see the lawsuit.
Breezy Park. There we go.
with Breezy Park, because we are going to do something, the town is going to do something for near Oakwood Road. So that would be lovely. The kids could.
sidewalk is sort of like that.
Okay, so.
Again, is it possible to put in a serpentine?
Not with a right-of-way, only 10-foot sidewalk section.
Right-of-ways are right-of-ways.
There may be one or two areas where the right-of-way gives me enough room to do something creative, and that's in the area of those marginal roadways where,
You couldn't do it on school property, or?
well, it's still not the county. They wouldn't put a sidewalk on the school property.
Eva?
Couple things I wanted to talk about. I just want to briefly mention, so it looks like there's a 24-foot rise about the maximum of the hills and stuff. Is there roughly about 24, 25 feet? It goes up and down.
I guess. Right.
Okay, so with that, the road then, where there is no sidewalk, that's the west side, right?
Right.
Where you've got mostly parklands and stuff going on. So does the road cant more that way? So the drainage helps for,
Where there's curves, the road's what they call super elevated around the curve, so that all the drainage is going to one side.
to one side?
Yeah.
And it's going to the sidewalk side?
Right.
Okay, so it's canting away from, okay, and the bike riders are encouraged to ride on the sidewalk side, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so they're
It's not
in the
gonna be-
flow of
They're
the,
in the flow, but the roadway
water.
is pretty steep in that area, so you're not gonna have much of a flow. As
right,
far as spread on the road.
right, that's what I'm trying to, okay, I'm trying to get a handle on that. And then at the railroad, I've been using the Long Island Railroad a lot recently, the past six, 7 months. A lot of accidents. What's happening with the pedestrian? If you could just address how that's being handled in terms of
There are-
crosswalks and bikes and
Yeah,
cars.
there are existing pedestrian gates in place. That was our first concern.
Yeah,
So we're really not doing anything specific other than, we want to keep a certain distance away from the railroad right-of-way. Because it just becomes a big issue in construction as far as working in I think it's 15 feet from the railroad right-of-way. So what we're doing is coming as close as we can to that area, which brings it to the pedestrian gates, which are there for safety already in place.
what about the continuity though of the sidewalk? Because one of the things I had found, even in East Hampton, that there's not continuity with sidewalks going, across. So there will be a continuity so that they can walk, it's not gonna change. I've seen this actually in several
You
locations.
know, across the track, we're not doing anything across the tracks.
Okay, but so you're not doing anything up to the, do the tracks have a paved area? So in other words, can wheelchair people cross the tracks from the sidewalk?
Yeah, the standard Long Island Railroad details are in place for pedestrian And we can't, that's not really our
I've
thing
seen
to
some of
change.
those- I've seen
I
some of
can't
those.
change that on this project.
Okay, but you're gonna go up to that point, up to where the Long Island Railroad, so there is a continuity of elevation,
Yes.
okay. Because that's what I've not seen in a few locations.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to reiterate again, if there are a significant number of trees coming down, that you should really
Oh,
mention
yeah.
something to the
I forgot to
residents.
say, there are 10 sycamores being proposed, overgrown, large-rooted sycamores, just south of the high school on the west side of the roadway that will need to come down, and we'll propose wire-friendly trees to be replaced.
But what I'm saying though is, you really need to let the local residents know. They just, I mean, you've been in this business, people don't like surprises, and it might be a problem, you know, might slow down your project a little bit now, but it'll smooth things over later. And sometimes we encounter that people plant within the county right away or the town right away, and then they're surprised that you come through and everything is ripped out. So people really need to know.
Okay, Mike?
A question came up regarding the intersection of Pulaski and Oakwood. If I'm not mistaken, that particular intersection is right adjacent to county-owned property. I think it's Froelich Farms. I'm not going to swear to that one, though. But I think it is, it's wooded right now, and I believe it is county ownership. The question that was posed to me was whether, you know, possibly serpentine sidewalks, et cetera, can extend a little bit to the, I'm going to figure out this map again, to the west. Because there's county land over there. Now, it may be parkland, in which case it probably is not easy to do. But, you know, if you're talking about extended right-of-ways and things like that, it's possible. So,
Yeah, if it's parkland, then.
I just wanted to comment, it's all of this stretch is Wicks Froelich, and it's owned by the county.
And it's
I do have to
parkland,
say,
dedicated
It's,
parkland.
yes, it's dedicated parkland. It falls under our jurisdiction.
Well, I understand that, but because it's dedicated parkland and acquired with watershed protection funds, you can't go in and develop that. DPW has to confine itself to the right of way. You can't go into the park.
so that question then is shot.
Yes. I have another question that I want
Sorry,
to
Larry.
raise, or another issue.
Trail.
It's great to say that, well, let's bring in serpentine sidewalks and all kinds of things. However, what is the liability issue when you're saying this thing to promote, you know, skateboards on sidewalk areas? I mean, that's a town park issue, that those things should be off roadways. If some young person, you put this thing on the side of a road, and they fly off the path into a vehicle, what is the county's liability?
Wait. I don't think anyone was proposing to promote skateboard use on the sidewalk. It's actually more visually appealing when it winds and it's lined with trees than a straight white roadway.
Well,
So,
yes.
you know, we're
It's
talking
almost like
about creating
traffic light.
character in a community.
Larry
not
just
laying
suggested it as looking pretty.
asphalt.
Well,
We
The
are not
liability-
pushing anything.
The liability issue is as follows. One, you can actually absolve yourself a little bit of liability by placing a sign up there. It's enough to get you in. I know it's a weak argument, but you can, you know, officially ban them. However, if you build it, they will come. Nonetheless, though, it's public use, and there always is an implied liability with it. Is it decisive because it's a winding situation? Looking at the cases that I've looked at, because I do some of this type of work, I don't really see it. You know, if you put in a skateboard launching ramp, yeah, then you'd have an issue. But a sidewalk is a sidewalk. How you design it doesn't really increase the liability as long as it still retains its essential characteristics as a sidewalk. It's when, again, winding could be prettier. Winding does not necessarily imply that the skateboarders will come. I mean, that's probably what would happen. There'll be a few people like Larry coming along with a little engine on the
Helmets and
back.
everything and all.
Okay,
With
you
his
know.
helmet.
if you're
No, Larry won't have a
attached to the
helmet, we know
back
that.
of your car,
But I don't see it as increasing liability.
But Michael,
Well, I don't mind winding sidewalks, EQ has done that in the past, but just not linking these things with skateboard activity and
Put up a
something else
sign
like that, that's
and
scary.
no Swansons allowed.
All right. Is there a motion?
just
One more, Dan?
comment. You know, if you're an attorney, you get the minutes of this meeting, and, you know, we're discussing it as used by skateboarders. It was initially mentioned as a possibility.
That's not going to be.
That's not going to be a
That's not
problem?
going to hurt anything. I mean, you discuss it, you look at it. It's what the final designs are that you really have to focus on if there's ever a liability situation. And again, as long as it retains its essential character as a sidewalk, and that's the essential purpose.
All right. Is there a motion?
Nothing added to it. All right, I'll make a motion. What is this? It looks like a type 1 actually.
Unlisted neg deck, no.
All right, unlisted neg deck then.
I'll second.
Okay, and we will have provisos, again, the same as the previous project.
I don't know what those were, so I'll go along with them.
Oh, can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
There's a lot of blind median space here. I mean, I don't know how, isn't it really dangerous when they can cross over, you know, each other? It's almost like what I refer to as suicide lanes where you can kind of go either way.
Population control.
I
Is
guess
that
this is
necessary
really,
here? Is
it's
that
really
have
out of
to
the
be-
budget. This is really pedestrian safety for this project.
And not a DOT redesign of the actual traffic zone. Okay, is there a vote? All in favor of our motion? Motion passed. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I need to
Okay, next project. Proposed shoreline protection at Indian Island County Golf Course, hole number 5, bulkhead. Capital Project 7166, Town of Riverhead.
No.
Is this virgin vinyl that they're going to be using?
Oh, that's what they call it.
Virgin vinyl for use.
I feel like somebody sort of pulled up.
By the way, there is a thing. By the way, Larry, with the engines on the
Especially when people
skateboard,
drive.
okay, you have to carry a little flask with the extra gas. That's the way the kids do it nowadays. It's his second childhood right now.
Please state your name.
John Parado with Nelson & Pope. I'm project manager. The Indian Island Golf Course Hole 5 currently has a failing Gabion retaining wall that's about 200 feet in length. Stands 2 to 4 feet high, roughly. I'm not sure the age of the Gabion wall, but in 2003 it was permitted to be anchored. But since then the anchors have failed and the wall is continuing to fall into the waterway. The project is to replace the Gabion wall with about 290 feet of vinyl bulkhead and to do some wetland planting restoration front of the wall. Here in this detail, this is what the Gabion wall looks like right now. Gabions are basically stacked wire baskets filled with stone. The vinyl bulkhead is going to be installed at the back side of the Gabion wall to minimize disturbance. A portion of the wall, the new sheet pile wall, will be anchored, and a portion will be cantilevered where it stands a little bit lower. Pretty straightforward project. Does anybody have any
Okay,
questions?
Michael.
Couple, why did the anchors fail?
Well, the Gabions are basically like...
I know what a
chain link
Gabion
fence.
is.
Okay. It's not really something that you can anchor. This is nothing for the anchors to hold on to.
This original effort was not a well-engineered, this was done in-house by Parks. The existing hardening, if you want to call it that, it's hardly that. It's failed over the years. We came in and took a corrective action by permit with DEC to try and help to get some more mileage out of it, but it's not. The other thing I want to talk about is we really don't have the luxury to kind of retreat backwards here. This hole is pretty much right up against the river. So there's no option for us to eliminate play in that area or further reduce the golf course area itself to help accommodate something softer, a wetland restoration, what have you.
Well, if it's there, it's there. A couple of good questions for you. One, is this a high-velocity area, or is this really far back in the river? I know the course, and, as part of the wetlands...
This is where Sawmill Creek meets Flanders Bay. However, Sawmill Creek is a very...
kind of common.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And is this near the wetlands restoration project that the county is going to be undertaking?
Up at Indian Island County Park?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so this is far away then.
Sawmill Creek is the creek that runs between the golf course and the park.
Okay, I was trying to figure it out over here, and I was not able to access.
Yeah, Meeting House Creek is the one on the north side of Indian Island County Park, and that's the one where there's the wetland project within the park that's going to drain out into Meeting House Creek, as well as you guys have heard before of the erosion problem we have at Indian Island County Park at the point with the artifacts, what have you. That's a separate project which will be coming to you with
far
later.
away from that.
Well, this is, I don't know if far away, but yes, it's not related,
It's
no.
not, yeah, on the other side. Eva, I'm sorry I missed the first part. Are you putting in Deadman? Is that what you're talking about? I didn't quite...
Yes.
All right, so-
For a 183-foot section of the wall,
Okay, and intermittently, how far apart are they going to be?
6 feet.
All right, and they're going how far in?
15 feet.
They
15
are,
feet?
they're gonna go about 20 feet.
About 20 feet, even better. That's, and how far, they're being staggered and, so 6 feet, the staggering is 6 feet?
They're 6 feet.
And they're how many
horizontal.
rows up?
One row.
Just one row?
Correct, and we're using...
You're not staggering?
No. And we're using helical anchors so that there's no ground disturbance. We didn't want to disturb the golf course grounds.
I'm just questioning the reason for not staggering.
The wall's not high enough to require 2 whales.
Okay, how tall is it? I didn't really see.
It'll stand at most 6 feet.
6 feet, okay.
I guess maybe Nick could answer this. Whether there was extensive flooding in that area during Hurricane Sandy, and does the project accommodate situations, any future hurricanes or things like that?
I'm not aware of flood elevation during the storm. This bulkhead is not intended to be a flood control structure.
I see.
It's just intended to, help protect the shoreline and keep the golf course.
This annually is overtopped by storm waters.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
By how much roughly?
How much? How often?
Yeah, how much, well, I said how much, but yeah, how much and how often?
Annually, I would
But
say, at
how
least.
much, like, is it just a foot or?
Well, there's a difference in elevation from the top of the, if you look at the first
The
sheet.
grade? Yeah.
Yes, there's a significant drop
there's
in the
drop
elbow of this project to
Okay.
the,
So it funnels in certain places? Okay.
I mean, the top of the hole is 5 feet over where the...
yes, the green is at an elevation.
Okay.
So you can still play in the storm.
Okay. Jim?
I
Okay.
have a curious question. How is the structural integrity of vinyl bulkheading? That's kind of relatively new, man.
No, it's been around for a while. It's got a lifespan of 50 years or greater.
Okay, cool. Curious.
Is there a motion?
No, I'm serious, that's what they call it.
Motion unlisted neg deck.
Okay, any other questions?
Second,
Any other questions? Okay, is there a second?
I did.
Seconded by Mary Ann? Go ahead, Jim.
One proviso that all New York State DEC permits would be obtained. It's a requirement.
Applications have been submitted.
All right, and all in favor of the motion? Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Loretta, it's finally your turn. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
All right, first on your docket, proposed acquisition for open space preservation purposes known as the Country View Estates Incorporated property, town of Brookhaven.
Yes, this is a proposed acquisition of 3 lots totaling 24 acres in the hamlet of Middle Island, town of Brookhaven. We're looking to acquire this under the new drinking water protection program for passive recreational use. It is adjacent across the street from the Rocky Point Natural Resource Management Area, as well as nearby the town-owned Twin Ponds properties to the west. It is within a special groundwater protection area, and that is the criteria by which we're applying.
Loretta, on the photo,
Yes.
what is this large light green area and this cream area, do you know?
Oh,
I'm just curious.
that's, the one, that's actually a pond in the middle of a sand mining operation, and it's green because it's, there's a lot of algae, green algae.
So that isn't colored in.
Believe it or not, it's pretty, green, yeah.
Legal sand
It's not easy to be green. That site is ultimately supposed to be turned over to the town of Brookhaven and turned into a park?
Portions of it, I believe, yes.
Nice, the green pond.
Including the
Including
pond
the
and the
green
lake?
pond.
The green pond, when it was built, I got two questions. The green pond, when it was built, was it a legal or an illegal?
It was a sand mine.
No, sand mines, sometimes you can get
No idea.
permits.
No, they have permits.
But that's sometimes-
That's
No,
the whole
for,
thing.
for
They
going
wanted-
below the groundwater, that's what
They
I'm
wanted to go
They-
down, yes.
Okay.
They wanted to go
They
down
are
like 50,
required.
60 feet.
Right, they are required to get permits.
Okay, the other question is, there's a oval, I don't know what you call it, to the left, and it looks like, I'm not even looking at the golf course. I'm looking at, over here, it's a letter upside down U, and it's got a lot of structures on it. Is that a storage place?
That's a
Martin's Road?
condo, that's Spring Lake condo
Oh,
development.
okay. Wow.
Is it actually totally developed out, or?
I believe so, it's been around for a number of years, at least 20 plus years.
This thing is heavily built.
It's a dense development, I, don't hold me to it, but I believe they have their own STP.
Yeah, they better, unless it goes into the green. Is that the reason the
That's why
pond
it's
is
not.
green?
There's too much nitrogen there, okay.
That's environmental humor, by the way, people.
Or maybe they put it
All right, is there a motion?
Motion.
Please state it.
Unlisted, negative.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Jim.
I want to add to that because there was a phase 2 environmental survey be done that the properties will be free and clear of debris prior to, acquisition of the county putting it in parks, and that these drums and everything else will be cleaned up and remediated.
The 20-gallon drum has been removed from the site,
And what about the soil underneath it?
the soil, John was going to reach out to the Nelson and Pope to see if in fact the soil drum was removed.
I just want that part of the neg deck, that it will be done prior to placement in parks.
And if I could just clarify, the soil was put in a drum and sealed and is scheduled to be removed. That was the remediation part. And so it's we're just clarifying when that drum will be removed.
So basically then, what you're saying is the environmental remediation, aside from the drum, it looks like it's pretty clean.
Right, and then the other comment we put in is all debris prior to closing should be removed.
Yeah, in the past, we put the requirements that basically this be done prior to the property being placed in parks, because real estate sometimes has certain obligations and not just leave it, but prior to acquisition of property, but, sometimes real estate does it, sometimes the property owner does it, or whatever, so.
We're just making sure it happens.
Yeah.
Before it's, yeah.
Is the green dotted line is the Pine Barrens core?
Yeah,
It's not identified.
yeah, it is. Rocky Point is
Yes.
part of it. This is
It's not
CG.
identified in this.
Oh.
But
It's
are
right
there
there.
like trails on here, on the property?
Yeah. A second.
Is there a second? Eva, you'll second?
I'll second.
All in
But are
favor?
those trails on the property?
There may be, I don't know personally.
Looks like trails.
Site was
ATV.
proposed for multi-family years ago. I don't know if it was for a rezone. I don't know if
Is
it
it
ever went
being
through.
used like for ATV?
Yeah, Larry's out there with a
Can't say.
skateboard. We're everywhere, Swanson.
And still no helmet.
Okay, there was a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Thank you, Loretta. Next one. Proposed acquisition for open space preservation purposes known as the Society of St. Francis American Province Incorporated property, the Little Friary, Town of Brookhaven.
This is interesting.
This acquisition consists of two parcels totaling 44.3 acres of land. The map shows you the upland area to be acquired. This is under the new Drinking Water Protection Program for protection of wetlands, woodlands, pine barrens, and other lands suitable for passive recreational use. It actually is within the watershed of Mount Sinai Harbor to the north, and it's to be acquired under the new Drinking Water Protection Plan. There is a partnership with the town of Brookhaven for a 25% share. The county will be providing 75% of the share of the costs of the acquisition.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, couple questions, Loretta. One, is the Chandler Estate near here? To bring
Yeah.
up, is it on this map?
It's further up to the northeast.
The second is more of a comment. I'm familiar with the area and the harbor, and Mount Sinai does have a lot of issues with runoff and also groundwater flow in terms of carrying pollutants, if you will, and anything that can be done to preserve this is an excellent thing. This is right near the harbor, etc. It's the west side, which, in my opinion, needs more help than the east side does. It's, again, I know the area a little bit. It's not a bad property, and I don't think it's been used for anything in the last, say, 50 years or anything like that.
It was part of the friary, the Order of St. Francis.
Which is that this?
And that's the structure right to the
Yeah.
west.
So I don't think there's any real pollutants on it or anything like that.
Well, chances are you
I know.
can do a phase one and then do a phase two on that area.
Well, phase one was already
No,
done.
this one.
Oh, the Priory
yeah,
property. Anyway, I think it's an excellent acquisition. I don't have any questions for
Mary Ann.
So there, as I look at this, there are three parcels. One that on the west is outlined in yellow, and these two on the right and on the, on the east and south are in red. What is this parcel that you're not purchasing? Is that state of New York?
No, the yellow, there are two properties outlined in yellow. There were initially 4 properties identified in the planning steps resolution, IR 1905-2008, that were proposed for acquisition. We're only acquiring 2 out of the 4 parcels.
Because?
Janet, would you like to answer?
Sure. Well, the one piece is developed where the friary is, and the other piece down south, the little 4-acre parcel,
On the harbor.
has a conservation easement on it that the town of Brookhaven owns, so it's protected. So,
To the degree that a
So you're saying that the
conservation easement
friary
gives it.
is not willing to sell this parcel because they have a,
well, they live there.
that's right, so
It's a
that's,
friary.
okay.
It's a very large structure. There are, I think, about 8 brothers that live there, and they utilize the place. They sell bread there. They have their services there. There's a graveyard behind it. So that piece we're not purchasing, but the other 2 large open space parcels.
Okay, and the rationale for this division, in other words, to the south of where they bake bread, you could conceivably cut off another square of land, correct?
Well, they're separate tax lots.
That's why you have
we're
this
not
funding.
gonna-
So these are three separate tax lots?
Three separate tax lots.
That's what I was asking,
And
thank
you
you.
can't subdivide.
That's what I wanted to know. Okay, thank you.
You're talking about this, right, Mary Ann?
Yeah, right, but if, that's right, I didn't know the rationale for these
Eva,
lines.
unlisted
Okay.
negative deck?
Yeah, is there a motion?
Yeah, unlisted negative deck.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, proviso that the debris and the unauthorized uses be removed from the property prior to placement in the park.
Is there a second? Larry seconded the motion, all in favor? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Loretta.
No, you can have it.
Recommendations for the LADS report. Recommendation of legislative resolutions right on the table, April, right on the table, June 4th, 2013. Is there anything we need to be made aware of?
Yeah, no, I think, all the recommendations are there, but from a secret standpoint, nothing really jumped out. So,
Motion to recommend approval as stipulated.
Okay,
Second.
seconded by Mary Ann, all in favor?
I'll just count me as an abstain on 1453.
Okay, but if the motion passed, okay. Other business? Yes, Mary Ann.
In the minutes that we approved earlier, right above, the paragraph right above correspondence, it says CEQ requested that the staff draft a letter to the Suffolk County Department of Public Works and then send this letter to Chairman Russo, Ms. Growney, and Ms. Spencer for review. Has that been done?
we've been working on the letter. In working on it, we've come across some issues about the status of that RFP.
Okay.
And so we've kind of reaching out to Parks again and trying to clarify whether that RFP is.
Okay,
the
now Nick,
status.
we did all of this in your absence. You're here today.
I know. My mistake. I'll just add that the department Parks felt it was more appropriate for that correspondence to come from CEQ to Parks, and in
Okay.
turn Parks would coordinate with DPW some sort of action to help to move that forward, rather than the CEQ directly corresponding with DPW. In that it's a Parks project, Parks property. I felt that was most appropriate.
I have no problem with that. We're just trying to facilitate it,
yeah.
so whatever's appropriate.
I really feel like that's, it's Parks' purview to set our priorities and request DPW. Obviously, DPW's role is as our consultant by charter, so we'll come to them with that request.
So, would you officially like
Yes.
me to request that the letter go
To our
To Parks.
to Parks?
Okay.
I so
Okay.
request.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Mary Ann.
Yeah, okay.
Larry?
Last week I spent several days with the Fish and Wildlife Service and was very interested to learn that they're having some change of heart with regard to Phragmites. And Phragmites, by and large, has been a swear word for a number of years in many circles. And their changing view is that high marsh is so much in jeopardy now that they're looking at the organic matter from decaying Phragmites as something that might be good. And they may even change their sort of official position on Phragmites in the future. But right now they're seriously considering just avoiding the issue of if you see a stick of Phragmites, let's remove it.
Yeah, but Larry, you know how invasive this stuff is and how it crowds out everything else. Are they
They're
taking
aware
that
of
into
that.
account?
They're the biologists, I'm not just telling you that.
You're the skateboarder, though.
Yeah.
Okay, other business,
It's that
Joy?
helmet.
Could you speak about the meeting you had with the DEC?
I went to the DEC update that's given for our organizations. And this is the agenda from it. And our website, NISAC website, which is nisacny.org. We have that. These will be covered. We recorded and we'll put it on a website, our website. I'm not sure if it's on now. It's on the area called resources. But I asked to have this reproduced. This is the update on seeker and the deadlines of it. Everything is no more extensions beyond 10/7/13 on the short form. And I'm not going to read you anything because you can read it yourself. They say that you can do it you will be able to do everything online, and it will be much easier. They say there are certain gatekeeper questions on page 2. If no, you continue. So they say that it will be it will be much easier to use. And the handbook for the short form will be coming out. It's not finished yet. They talked about using a Google map to identify everything. So I thought you would.
Thank you, Joe, for bringing this and getting us copies. Bye.
Quick update on vector control. One, the wetland stewardship plan, which is, well, it's in production right now, is what it boils down to. It hasn't been finalized or anything like that. I'm not in love with the plan or anything like that. I think it has some issues. It's very incomplete in its own way. But it will be coming out relatively soon. Fundamentally, it really doesn't change anything. It's more a question of how you rebuild marshes and how you assess marshes to see if they are indeed in danger of being lost. Again, it only goes so far. I don't really think it fundamentally changes anything of the approaches that we're dealing with. Second off, one of the primary chemicals that's used in vector control right now is probably going to be going out of production. There's a new chemical out there called Duet, which has been approved by DEC and the feds. We're not sure if we can use it around here. We'd have to do an EAF on it, plus possibly a supplemental EIS. So that's a problem. The problem is with the Asian tiger mosquito, if that thing breaks containment the way it was doing last year, that is one nasty bug. And it's very, very hard to eradicate and or control with the present chemicals that are used and the present spraying regimes. It's very, very tough. Literally, people sometimes can't go outside when that bug is present.
And what diseases does it carry?
It can carry any of them, and that's the problem. It seems to be a fairly efficient transmitter when it gets into the population. The problem is the chemicals that the county uses right now are not effective against it. Again, Duet seems to be a good chemical, but it's not approved yet. Again, a supplemental would have to be done on that. We'd be doing the guidance. As part of the wetlands committees, I've been trying to outline for the county people who are working on it some ideas on how to approach the supplemental. When that happens, we'll have to get a task force going over here to guide it. Hopefully, most of the information already has been put into the EISs that we have in place right now. It would be more of a technical review of the literature. The problem is, I don't think it would be used this year. If the Asian tiger mosquito or the ATM gets out into wider areas than is presently at risk, literally the EIS would take, it takes a couple of months. I mean, you've got to do a scope and you've got to do everything else with it. and I just don't see it happening quickly. Can the chemical duet be used on an emergency basis? Yes. If the state health commissioner, and I believe also the county health commissioners agree on it. Again, it's been approved by New York State and EPA, but not thoroughly studied yet by us. And the people on the wetlands committees have been looking at it. We're trying to access more information on it. What it boils down to is it's new. We got to see what happens. It may be effective against the Asian tiger. If the tiger doesn't show up, then we don't necessarily need to do anything. But if it's as bad as it could be, then under the emergency powers, it might be used.
And what is the June rain, all this June rain? Well,
No idea.
yeah.
I mean, when you talk to the biologists and the people who run the program, it's all over the place. They literally can't tell. I mean, they can guess is what it boils down to. But probably the rain did not help. It's breeding season, unfortunately.
I was just gonna ask, are there areas in general that it concentrates in?
Hop Hog, for example, where we're sitting, Mastic Shirley was getting it pretty badly. There were some places on the spine of the island out east. I don't remember exactly where. I just remember Hop Hog as being a center of it. And apparently, it started about 2 years ago. It spread pretty badly last year. And don't know what's going to happen this year.
I have a question, Mike. What does the EPA and New York State DEC do for an environmental review when they adopt these pesticides?
They do their own reviews.
And they have to do environmental
They
reviews?
do their own reviews, but we're required by our EIS to double-check all that out of an abundance of caution. Nonetheless, in a health emergency, should the two health commissioners at state and local level decide that a health emergency is warranted, they can use it on an emergency basis. So the fact that the state has done its own review, or registration is really called, it's not an EIS, but it's close. The fact that the state has done it would allow it to be used.
Is this information going to be furnished to?
Yeah, we're
people
already in the
town?
process of trying to get it and look at it and see how we can integrate. Frankly, a lot of the information probably would be placed inside any supplemental EIS. The problem is you don't always have all the information you would like on these chemicals. The registration process sometimes is a little opaque. And as such, you're almost dependent upon the chemical companies, their data on how to apply it and its effectiveness and where to apply it, all sorts of fun questions like that. You're captive in that way. So I don't always trust everything I see. I show you methoprene, which is still, most people are generally now trending towards saying methoprene is okay. We're not finding teratogenic effects. We're not finding major impacts upon the sediments in the marshes, for example, where it's used. On the other hand, an abundance of caution, you got to be careful, is what it boils down to.
Do they, in the science of this, do they talk about, when they mix two chemicals together, is there a benchmark that they don't have to report, benchmark percentage, that they don't have to report
No.
aspects of
They got to report
chemical?
everything. They got to report
And,
everything.
and what the composition is of each?
Yeah, well, for example, Duet is a catalyst and I believe it's a synergist. It's got PPO and it's actually got resmethrin in a different formulation. And it's supposed to basically excite the bugs, gets them all jittery, they start flying, and then they get hit by the remaining spray that's in the air and hopefully get influenced by it and pass away. That's the way it works when you have that kind of synergistic effect. But at the same time, to address your question, it's every impact out there is supposed to be reported. There's no thresholds or anything
Total
like that.
percentages of whatever it is that have to be in
Whatever,
there?
we got to look at everything. That's the way it works. It's not as if, if you're applying 5% concentration versus 25%. It doesn't work like that.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about when they combine the actual chemistry of the chemicals that they're putting, because in certain worlds, they don't have to report what's in it
They have to.
if it's under a certain percentage of
They have
that
to.
compound.
They have to.
Okay.
It's not like the FDA, where I believe it's below 1%, you don't have to report what's in your food. This is everything.
Okay, thank you,
All right.
Mike. Do you want to
I
go
just
first?
had, we had a presentation on mosquitoes last night, and the Asian tiger is scary because although most mosquitoes come out at night, this one comes out in the daytime.
Oh.
And is just, and when it bites, you know, kids, it gets, well, huge welts. And someone that David Tonjes was doing the presentation, and everyone was scratching. They were listening. Someone that lives in Wyandanch just had one that day on her.
Yeah. By the way, just to let you know, the big problem with the ATM is the fact that larviciding is relatively ineffective against it because it can be anywhere, much worse than the bugs that we have right now. And again, as Joy just pointed out, its biting pattern is different, and you know, trying to control it with a spray during the day is problematical. You don't like to spray during the day. You like to spray at different times when people are indoors and things like that. But again, larviciding seems to be relatively ineffective.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I just want to mention to everybody on the board, and I think Christine has reached out to each of you to sign the beautiful plaque, if we'll call it that we had developed for Rich McKay for his resignation. We are also going to get a card for him and get everybody to sign the card, so next month's meeting we'll have that, and then we'll be able to give both to Richard, so I'm hoping everybody can make next month's meeting. And we wish him the very best with his unfortunate health turns, but we hope he does okay through this. So I just wanted to let everybody know that, okay?
17th.
Okay, all right. Is there a motion to close the meeting?
Motion.
Seconded by Eva, all in favor? Okay, motion passed. Thank you,
All right.
everybody. Joy, do you want this